Notice. I have the notice.
There's a notice right here. There's a notice.
Who are you? Back up. Back up. Get out of the way. He's impeding us. He's impeding us. Yes, back up. Back up.
Okay, so what you just saw were ICE agents being obstructed, impeded, being yelled at. A judge was trying to write up an order to stop them at a courthouse hallway in San Diego, California.
Judge has a notice.
The judge is printing a notice.
Judge has a notice.
The judge is printing a notice right now.
Judge has a notice.
Now, you're probably wondering, how do all of these people get away? These judges get away with impeding and obstructing and trying to stop ICE agents? Well, the Trump administration just released the sanctuary jurisdictions defying federal immigration law list of every single state and every single city who's doing this. San Diego is on that list. This courthouse is in San Diego.
Don't touch me. Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. You touch me with your arm. You can't do that.
You're violating.
You can't do that.
Okay, so we're going to work together. We're going to look into the new footage, the new information revolving around this case. Make sure you guys are leaving your comments down below. Let me know how you feel about all of this. Let's first look into this most obvious case of impediment and obstruction.
Who are you? Back up. Back up. Back up. Get out of the way. He's impeding us. He's impeding us. Yes, back up. Back up. Back up. Back up. What? Who? What are you guys doing? No, yeah, we do. No, but when are you coming? Are you his attorney? Yeah, are you his attorney? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that right there was clear as day. To include, you had the law enforcement officer even say impediment and pointed to the other officers to take him away.
He's impeding us. He's impeding us. Yes, back up. Back up.
Now, if you're trying to figure out who are all of these people in the hallway, why are they bothering ICE agents, here's your answer.
Well, these volunteers are showing up in shifts, morning and afternoon. Some of them are attorneys, others are community activists who say they want to witness and document what's going on.
So now we can really dig into the footage now that we know the full context of who's surrounding these ICE agents. You got some lawyers, you got some activists, and apparently you have a judge somewhere trying to write up an order to stop all of this while it's all happening. Let's start the footage.
She just continued.
Okay, so let us do our job. Could you step back, please? If he doesn't want to talk, then talk to him. You can talk to me. I'm trying to talk to you because I'm trying to talk to you. Okay, listen.
Now, when I first covered this story, it was a little confusing as to who everybody was, but now we know this is the lawyer of the illegal immigrant, and illegal immigrants are entitled and are allowed to have lawyers.
I'm trying to explain. Yes, in court. Yes, he's not finished, right? Correct. Okay, we're taking him into custody. I'm trying to explain it. We know that, and I'm trying to explain. We are remanding him to custody. That's all. That's all. You don't have to pursue the custody system. But says who? I'm just explaining what we're doing. Under what? You can fight that with the court. I'm just telling you what we're doing. Okay? What you're doing is illegal.
Now, that lawyer was asking about regulations. What many people don't realize is that ICE is actually highly regulated. But when it comes to operating in public areas like a public hallway and a courthouse, ICE is allowed to be there.
Judge has a notice.
The judge is printing a notice.
Judge has a notice.
The judge is printing a notice right now.
Judge has a notice.
Who is your supervisor?
The judge has a notice.
Okay, when I first covered this story, this list was not released yet by the Department of Homeland Security, and here's why it matters. Remember, the point of that list is to call out cities that are creating these sanctuary policies inhibiting Homeland Security from doing their job. However, in 2020, in the San Diego area, a temporary court order was put in place to block Homeland Security from doing their arrest. And remember, San Diego is on the list of being called out for having such policies.
Why are you ignoring the judge's orders?
Wait until I speak with your supervisor. Okay, I'll notice or what?
The judge is issuing an order.
Why are you ignoring the judge's orders?
The judge has a notice. He has a notice.
Judge's orders.
Yeah.
You're violating.
You're going exactly against the judge.
Why are you ignoring the judge's orders?
Why are you participating in a fascist takeover of the government? You're violating court order.
Now, all of these people are shouting, you're violating a judge's order, but what a lot of these people don't realize, ICE has jurisdiction in public areas, but also ICE has special provisions as far as their own warrants to protect them from situations like this.
It is important to keep in mind that the underlying basis for a non-citizen's removability may be due to some criminal violation, but the removal warrant used by ICE is not a criminal warrant signed by a federal judge. In fact, the removal warrant used to process the non-citizen's removal is signed by an ICE official based on a finding that the person is removable from the United States.
So again, as all of these activists and lawyers, they are yelling at the ICE agents, I don't know if they're aware, ICE is allowed to operate in the area because of these special warrants.
Why are you ignoring the judge's orders?
Wait until I speak with your supervisor. Okay, I'll notice of what?
The judge is issuing an order.
Why are you ignoring the judge's
Leave
orders?
this man.
The judge has a notice. He has a notice.
Judge's orders.
Yeah.
You're violating.
You're going exactly against the judge.
Why are you ignoring the judge's orders?
Why are you participating in a fascist takeover of the government? You're violating court order. You're violating human rights. People have a right to due process in this country, whether or not they are a citizen. The Constitution
You're literally violating a judge's order.
to everybody present in the United States.
I'm backwards.
You are knowingly
This is an unlawful
violating their due process rights.
violating my client's rights and the court's orders.
You are criminals.
This is a fucking kidnapping.
Hey, back up, back up.
It is a
I'm not.
kidnapping.
Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me.
Violating.
You've touched me with your arm. You can't do that.
You're violating.
You can't do that.
Fucking kidnapping, man. Y'all are going to be held accountable for this. You know that, right? There's going to be a day where you're fucking held accountable for crimes against humanity. This is a kidnapping. You know how many years in prison people get for kidnapping? 20 years. You want to go to prison for 20 years? Keep going with your shit.
I have the notice. I have the notice. I have the
There's a
notice.
notice right here. There's a notice.
Okay, we already know that too. We know that too.
That's a notice from the judge.
So again, as you can see, everybody in the area is really harping on the judge's notice. I have no way of knowing what's exactly in that notice, but like I outlined before, specifically in the San Diego area, you did have that temporary halt or notice to not allow activity like this before. You also have the California state laws to also try and prohibit stuff like this. But I have to mention, these are federal entities, these are federal agents, they supersede the state laws or the city jurisdiction of these temporary halts.
So, John, what are the differences between a criminal warrant issued by a federal court and a removal warrant issued by an ICE official?
Jenna, the primary difference is that, unlike a criminal warrant issued by a federal court, a removal warrant does not authorize the ICE officer to enter into an REP area to execute the warrant.
So what does that mean to an ICE officer who goes out to execute an ICE administrative removal warrant?
Basically, what this means is that the ICE officer has the authority to arrest the person named in the warrant so long as the officer locates the person in a public, non-REP location. For example, the person is located walking down a public sidewalk.
Well, and what would happen if the ICE officer locates the person in an REP area, such as his or her home?
Well, in that case, the administrative removal warrant authorizes the ICE officer to arrest the subject, but not to enter into an REP area, such as his or her home, unless consent to enter is given.
So again, this is a total fallacy as far as how not regulated ICE is. They are very regulated. They can't just take you off of the street or pluck you off the street as the media likes to report. The reason why I do like to make these videos is to make sure ICE is actually held accountable in the proper way. What they're doing is not illegal. However, there's another argument to this that Democrats are talking about, the morality of it. Are ICE agents tricking illegal immigrants from going into private areas and bringing them back into public areas where they can do these legal arrests?
In the hallway, presumably waiting for those whose cases are going to be dismissed to take them into custody. Now, I spoke with this group who, again, says that they've been doing this since about 2018, and they have never seen ICE agents in the hallways of these court proceedings in the past. That this is something that is unprecedented, and they've been videotaping as these individuals have been taken into custody. And this is something that has matched what we have seen in other major cities here across the U.S. just recently. In fact, take a look at this video. This is from Los Angeles just over the weekend. We know that there were a number of individuals, unconfirmed just how many, that may have also been taken into custody as they showed up to their court proceedings to go through the immigration process, only to have their case dismissed and to be taken into custody.
Now, I will even admit there are some conservatives and Republicans questioning whether or not this is the proper tactic, but the issue for the Trump administration is that they want 3,000 deportations a day. 1,000 a day is not meeting a quota that the Trump administration had promised the American people. I also want to say this, 60% of Americans are okay with general deportations, anyone, they don't care. When you get into violent criminals, the number goes way up, which is why now we have this list circling back to the beginning where the Trump administration is calling out every single state or every single city involved with these type of policies. The reason why we are here today, as far as if you want to say canceling these court orders to either trick or to get illegal immigrants into a public area, we're here today, first off, because of how many illegal immigrants there are, but the policies in these sanctuary cities, according to the Trump administration, they are playing the system. When it comes to federal law, ICE is allowed to do their job. When you get to state and sanctuary laws, you create these divides, obstruction, and you have these cases like you saw in the public hallway where people are yelling and shouting, literally obstructing, and you even have judges trying to write up these orders in a non-legitimate way to try and stop ICE. This is how we got here today.
Once in custody, they're on a fast track to being deported.
Lack of notice and even basic human decency is what's super shocking to all of us.
No news cameras are allowed inside federal court. This video was provided to us by Alliance San Diego and filmed by the San Diego Immigrants' Rights Consortium. It appears to show a man fall to the ground while being detained in the hallway.
It leaves the individuals exposed as though they are here in an undocumented status.
According to a statement from ICE about this practice of expedited removal, an immigration judge has reviewed DHS's motion to dismiss proceedings and agreed that dismissal is appropriate in these cases.
And again, legally speaking, the law is on the Trump administration's side. Whether or not you like these deportations is a different question. But when you have the Supreme Court literally saying you are allowed to dismiss these cases, and wherever these illegal immigrants happen to be, if they show up to court and then they leave the courthouse and they're in the public hallway, this is why I make these videos, to educate you guys. ICE is allowed to be there, and ICE is doing their job, and they have the warrants to prove it.
The Trump administration widely broadened the scope of who qualifies for expedited removal. Now, migrants without adequate documentation proving they've been in the U.S. for more than 2 years can be deported without a court hearing.
It's just a total disregard by the government for due process rights.
On Truth Social last month, President Trump said it was not possible to give everyone a trial.
This is basically people not given a chance to even say why they deserve to stay here when we told them they would have a chance to make that case.
Now, there is a massive misconception when it comes to due process and when it comes to illegal immigrants getting due process. They are allowed due process and they should have due process, but it's not like what you think. It's not a grand jury. This is not a long, drawn-out process. It could actually last less than 24 hours.
But then we have general deportation. That's what I'm talking about right here.
Yep. So federal law allows for even broader and speedy removal than has been used in the past. And expedited removal, as you talked about, allows for summary removal. That means no entitlement even to a hearing, possibly within 24 hours. It hasn't been used as broadly as, say, the Trump administration might want to use it, but under the statute, it is permissible to remove aliens who arrive at the border and even those who have been here for 2 years, although that 2-year provision you talked about is the lesser used in practice.
So again, what we're seeing across the board in these sanctuary cities, in my personal opinion, I think they have been living this life that the state policies will stop anything like this happening in public hallways. I will fully admit, This is not a common tactic we've ever seen from any administration to go into public hallways. But with the situation so severe and the Trump administration wanting so many deportations, expect more things like this to happen as far as obstruction or judges just trying to write these random notices to stop what's happening in their hallways.
And it will be used because it's permitted under federal law. The Congress, in its infinite wisdom, decided that aliens who arrive at the border, and they define people who arrive at the border as people who have even been here 2 years, if they have fraudulent documents, if they don't have sufficient documents, they can be removed in an expedited fashion unless they seek asylum. So you don't run into those due process concerns, at least presumably because that statute, as it exists today, is still valid. Now, that's not what's at stake with the Venezuelans and the Alien Enemies Act. But the government's argument is that, hey, court, listen, you're telling us we need to provide notice. Well, take a look at this federal law. It says that we don't even need to have a hearing. It can happen within 24 hours. So if that's good enough for people who arrive here who are aliens, it's certainly okay for people that the president has deemed to be alien enemies.
Okay, so now with all of the details, I do think way more of the law leans in favor of these ICE agents. Again, with this new policy of going into a public area, more so in an area that has these temporary pauses or sanctuary halts to try and stop ICE or limit their operations, ICE, I think, knows what they're doing as far as getting these deportations done. However, throughout the United States, this is becoming a common occurrence of indirect obstructions, sanctuary policies, or officials who are either trying to stop ICE or make their job more difficult. So without a doubt, we are probably going to see more and more of these cases, either in a courthouse hallway or in a broader sense through the law in specific states, especially like Tennessee or Nashville. This is going to become very common. Thank you guys for watching this video. God bless, and we'll see you all later.